Tom Selleck is leaving it all behind after 36 years of dating. The Blue Bloods star recently broke down and told his buddies that, given what's going on at home, he can no longer handle it. He has to make the most difficult decision of his life as a result of his wife Jillie's devastating prognosis. The 79-year-old actor, who is divided between his beloved job and the lady who saved him, hasn't slept in weeks, according to people close to him. On January 29, 1945, Tom Selleck was born in Detroit, Michigan. Martha, his mother, was a housewife. During World War II, his father Robert served in the U.S. Army as a technician on B-29 bombers. For the first 2 years of his childhood, Tom lived with his grandparents while his father was away. The family drove to California from Detroit in 1949, when Tom was 4 years old. They only brought items that would fit in the car since they were strapped for cash. They purchased a modest home in Sherman Oaks, a peaceful neighborhood of Los Angeles, using the GI Bill. California was a difficult place to live. The family's income fluctuated from month to month since Tom's father was a real estate agent who worked on a straight commission. His parents, however, instilled in him the values of diligence, integrity, and maintaining one's composure under difficult circumstances. Tom had no childhood aspirations of being famous or an actor. Sports dominated his world. He spent much of his time on the pitch or on the court, since he enjoyed baseball and basketball. By high school, his genuine talent was evident. Tom stood out at 6'4". Montana State University offered him a basketball scholarship, but he declined. He intended to enroll at Southern California University. His inability to pay for it was the issue. He chose to attend at Valley Junior College instead. He saved money while working part-time at a clothes store and staying at home. His perseverance and hard work were rewarded. In his junior year, he received a basketball scholarship and transferred to USC. He was a member of the USC Trojans from 1965 to 1966. Despite playing in just 7 games and scoring few goals, coaches took note of his resilience and sense of teamwork. With the Vietnam War still raging in 1967, Tom had to make a significant choice. He enlisted in the Army National Guard of California. He joined the 160th Infantry Regiment and remained there until 1973. After completing officer candidate school, he was promoted to second lieutenant. Later on, he received a promotion to sergeant. He was mobilized throughout significant incidents like the Watts riots in Los Angeles when he was serving. He was under a 6-month acting contract with 20th Century Fox at the time. However, the studio let him go when he went to serve. When he returned, the bargain was gone. He never felt sorrow for the decision though. Tom attempted something new before his acting career really took off. He made his television debut in 1965 while still a student at USC. On The Dating Game, he was the second bachelor. He lost. In 1967 he returned for another attempt but failed. He made jokes about it years later. He lacked confidence and gave uncomfortable replies. The amusing thing is that he attracted the attention of another person while not getting the dates. His appearance and on-camera demeanor caught the attention of producers. Even if he lacked charisma at the time, he possessed a quality that caused others to pause and observe. An invitation resulted from that unexpected attention. He was invited to join 20th Century Fox's new talent program. It was designed to mold unidentified faces into future stars and served as a formal training ground for performers. Selleck remained in the program for 2 years. Even when his contract was extended 4 times, he was still not given any significant tasks. Fox eventually let him go. They had made an investment in him, but they never did. He had left. At that point, most people may have given up, but he persisted. He continued attending acting school, working odd jobs to make ends meet, doing commercials, modeling, or anything else he could find. He made appearances in advertisements for Revlon's Chaz Cologne and Salem cigarettes. Even though he was aware that they weren't glamorous, he saw each assignment as training to improve. At one point during this difficult period, Selleck thought about giving up. He sought guidance from his father. He was no longer sure if pursuing acting was worthwhile. His father's response was straightforward. If you don't pursue it, you may be 35 years old and regret it. he warned. That sentence stuck. Long after the conversation was over, Selleck gave it some thought. It gave him the push he required. He made the decision to quit hesitating. Acting was no longer a side project after that. It became the objective. In the early 1970s, he continued to develop his resume. He made appearances in Charlie's Angels, Marcus Welby, Maryland, Bracken's World, and Lancer. He had some screen time in these roles, but they didn't help him establish a reputation. Since his role in Lancer was so minor, many spectators were unaware of him. He continued to work, but he was consistently turned down. Selleck's appearance ought to have been beneficial. Despite his powerful presence and 6'4", he was frequently dismissed by casting directors. His neat look and height were disadvantages. He subsequently claimed that because Dustin Hoffman appeared more like an ordinary guy, he had an easier time getting large jobs. It was more difficult to persuade people that Selleck could act, since he appeared to be a celebrity before he was. He portrayed Jed Andrews on The Young and the Restless, a soap opera, from 1974 until 1975. Although it wasn't a glamorous position, he gained useful experience from it. Fast-paced soap operas were filmed. On extended shoot days, he had to maintain his composure and quickly learn lines. He didn't become renowned or have glamorous employment, but he did learn how to deal with the pressures of television. Later on, he claimed to have declined a lengthier contract on the show. He had no desire to remain at ease. He was prepared to wait for something greater and take the chance. He finally had a break that felt different in 1978. He was cast in The Rockford Files as Lance White. The figure was the antithesis of Jim Rockford, played by James Garner. Rockford was cynical and harsh. Lance White was idealistic and slick. He was nearly flawless, always fortunate and kind. Selleck managed to make the persona work, though, with his charming portrayal of Lance, he made the crowd laugh. Although Selleck was already a well-known actor, James Garner took the time to coach him. The best roles had flaws, Garner advised him. He told Selleck that a character may become boring if they were too flawless. Honesty was what counted. He carried that counsel with him. Selleck applied what he had learned from Garner when he featured in Magnum, P.Y. He ensured that the character had nuance. No one anticipated Magnum P.Y. would transform television in the manner that it did when it debuted on December 11, 1980. It was a detective program with a Ferrari, palm trees and sunsets in Hawaii. However, it was much more than that. Tom Selleck, a towering actor with a serious mustache and a calm charisma, was at the center of it all. He played more than only Thomas Magnum. Magnum was his name. Additionally, he gave the character depth, something that few series at the time had, over the course of 8 seasons and 162 episodes. When he got the part, Tom Selleck wasn't a well-known figure. He had done some TV guest spots and modeling, but nothing that made him well-known. When Magnum P.I. was picked up by CBS, he saw an opportunity to do something new. With gadgets and a James Bond mentality, the initial iteration of the persona was ostentatious and extravagant. Magnum even used a hang glider with machine weapons in one draft. That was not what Selleck wanted. He and the creators had a disagreement. "I don't want to play a superhero," he stated. He wanted to portray a genuine individual with imperfections and a sense of humor. Everything changed with that choice. Selleck contributed to the script's revision. Magnum had emotional wounds as a Vietnam veteran. He drove a Ferrari he didn't own and resided in a guest home on a wealthy author's estate. He accepted menial occupations. He was not wealthy. He wasn't always sure of himself. His history still plagued him, but he had devoted friends. That resonated with the audience. It seemed sincere. 3 weeks before to the commencement of production, Harrison Ford was cast in the role instead. Ford rose to fame in film. Magnum stayed with Selleck. Others have remarked that the lost opportunity still hurts, but he has never shown genuine sorrow. Wasn't precisely a cross to carry, Selleck stated in an interview from 2024. "The finest thing that ever happened to me was Magnum. One of the biggest disappointments of his career, according to Raiders star Karen Allen, was not getting to portray Indiana Jones." Selleck created one of the most recognizable characters in television history. In spite of this, Magnum as a whole became ingrained in popular culture. The authentic Hawaiian shirts were from Paradise Found, a little store in Honolulu. While the episode was on, sales of those shirts increased by 300%. Although it became a representation of 80s style, Selleck found driving the Ferrari 308 GTS to be difficult. He could hardly squeeze inside at 6'4". To make him fit on camera, the team had to remove the cushions, relocate the seat, and fasten it in place. There was significance even in his baseball cap. The Detroit Tigers emblem on the navy blue headgear was more than simply a costume. Selleck was a lifetime supporter and was born in Michigan. It felt appropriate for the persona, so he donned the cap. He was questioned if he still watched the Tigers in an interview in 1986. Always was his one-word response. During Magnum's peak popularity in 1983, the Tigers' product sales increased by 18%, and the mustache came next, thick, imperceptible, and well-groomed. It evolved into a distinct style. In the early years of the event, Gillette recorded a 22% boost in sales of mustache grooming products. It was dubbed the Magnum Effect. It wasn't only a style statement, it was a signature. Even the naysayers took note. For Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series, Selleck received an Emmy in 1984. In 1985, he was awarded a Golden Globe. The show received 25 Emmy nominations, including one for Outstanding Drama Series in 1984. All of that achievement resulted from portraying a complex character rather than a flawless hero. In 1987, Tom Selleck reached the pinnacle of his Hollywood career. Everything changed for him when Three Guys and a Baby came out that year. Leonard Nimoy, well known as Spock from Star Trek, directed the movie. Nobody anticipated it becoming a huge hit, but it did. On a mere $11 million budget, it made $240 million globally. Today, that amounts to more than $500 million when inflation is taken into account. It was an easy narrative. Suddenly, three carefree bachelors are compelled to care for a newborn. Selleck co-starred with Steve Guttenberg and Ted Danson. The audiences adored it. The movie became 1987's highest-grossing picture. It was also associated with an odd rumor. In one scene, some viewers reported seeing a ghost. The VHS was halted. He gestured towards a boy who appeared to be standing behind a curtain. The reality was less eerie, but it spread quickly. Someone had neglected to reposition the cardboard cutout of Danson's figure. Despite this, the film went on to become a classic, and helped Selleck establish himself as more than simply the Magnum P. White character. Selleck changed his course in 1990. He starred in the Australian western Quigley Down Under. He portrayed American sniper Matthew Quigley, who believes he has been recruited for a typical position, but when he arrives, he discovers that he has been summoned to do a horrible task. It was a serious, multi-layered position. Selleck hoped it would seem genuine. He picked up his own outfit. He chose the long-range Shiloh Sharp's 1874 rifle on his own. He even picked the horse he wanted. He heeded the same counsel that had been provided regarding John Wayne. Pick the horse that best suits your appearance. Dances with Wolves, which was released a few weeks later, and garnered the majority of the publicity, performed better than the film. Over time, however, Quigley Down Under developed a sizable fan base. It is now regarded by many admirers as one of Selleck's greatest roles. He continued after that. He portrayed James Rainwood in An Innocent Man in 1989. This man was imprisoned for a crime that he did not commit. The movie depicted prison life in a very unvarnished and, from the amiable and composed investigator he had portrayed for years, it was a significant change. Selleck demonstrated that he could handle more serious parts by embracing the story's gloom. In 1992, Mr. Baseball followed. Selleck portrayed waning baseball star Jack Elliott, who finds himself in Japan attempting to save his career. Selleck was more than simply a ballplayer. He joined the Detroit Tigers during spring training in 1991 in order to prepare. He faced Tim Liana, a genuine pitcher. Before striking out, he fouled off 3 pitches. Even though it was brief, it demonstrated his commitment. He collaborated with Disney later in his career. Old Fustes de Trade Fernen, Loops Krigley. In 2007, he voiced Cornelius Robinson in the television series Meet the Robinsons. Although it wasn't a significant portion, it revealed a different aspect of him. He had a warm, heavy voice that was perfect for animation. His relationship with Disney also dates back to his previous live-action films, such as Touchstone Pictures' production of 3 Men and a Baby. Tom Selleck took an unexpected action in 1996. He joined the popular comedy Friends as Dr. Richard Burke, and is best known for portraying the gruff and endearing Thomas Magnum in Magnum P.I. He made his debut in the Season 2 episode where Ross and Rachel, the studio crowd roared as he entered wearing a tuxedo. Everyone was obviously familiar with the movie star charisma and the mustache. Although Selleck was initially only expected to appear in 3 episodes, his character quickly won over fans. In the end, he made 10 appearances in seasons 2, 3, and 6. However, Selleck acknowledged off-camera that he was anxious. He told the Kelly Clarkson program that he was terrified since he hadn't performed in a sitcom in years. Courtney Cox assisted him in acclimating. She welcomed him, which aided their on-screen chemistry throughout Monica and Richard's romance. There was more to their connection than a mere narrative. It demonstrated depth of feeling. Richard and Monica were 21 years apart in age. The narrative included it. Later, however, the true problem emerged. Richard had no desire to have any more children. Being a mother was Monica's dream. The plot had actual weight because of that struggle. Dating wasn't the only thing involved. It dealt with grief and life decisions. Selleck assumed an entirely different position years later. He portrayed Jesse Stone in a run of 9 CBS made-for-TV films from 2005 to 2015. When the first movie, Stone Cold, came out in February 2005, 18.2 million people saw it. Jesse Stone was the police chief of a tiny Massachusetts town. He was an ex-LAPD officer who struggled with drinking and divorce. It was a silent part, and grave. It allowed Selleck to showcase a different aspect of his performance. The character's recovery from his past was never complete. Jesse had 2 fixed features, according to the designer. He would constantly be in love with his ex-wife and struggle with alcoholism. Selleck had never experienced such emotional harm before, yet he managed to make it work. Additionally, he starred in Blue Bloods while filming the Jesse Stone films, which started in 2010. The 14-season series concluded in 2024. According to Selleck, his Blue Bloods character Frank Reagan had to abide by the regulations. Not even Jesse Stone. Jesse frequently created his own guidelines to achieve his goals. Selleck was able to examine all sides of law enforcement figures thanks to this contrast. He was more than simply an actor in the Jesse Stone films. He did behind-the-scenes work as well. He started off as an executive producer. By 2009, he had a narrative to his credit with Jesse Stone and Thin Ice. Later on, he co-wrote 2 of the films, No Remorse 2010 and Death in Paradise 2006. These films moved more slowly, included lengthy pauses, and showed Jesse alone himself, reflecting while gazing out to sea. Selleck was responsible for such occasions. For being more concentrated, no regret was expressed. The deeper character work was well received by viewers. Selleck had nailed the persona, according to even Jesse Stone novelist Robert B. Parker. Even still, 13 million people saw the 8th film Benefit of the Doubt in 2012. Following the conclusion of Blue Bloods, speculation surfaced regarding a potential reunion with Jesse Stone. Selleck took a big chance in 2001. He debuted on Broadway in 1,000 Clowns at the age of 56. It debuted at the Longacre Theatre on July 11th. He portrayed comic writer Murray Burns, who was battling to maintain custody of his nephew. Jason Robards had been the show's first star in 1962. The Broadway run ended on September 23 after 83 performances. That occurred soon after the 9/11 attacks, which significantly affected the number of people that went to the theater. Although reviews from critics were varied, many commended Selleck for venturing outside of his comfort zone. He made a comeback to network television in 2007 with Las Vegas. He debuted as AJ in the 5th season of the program. Cooper, a former Marine and multi-billionaire, purchases the Montecito Casino. When James Caan quit the show, he took over. Selleck watched the entire previous season on DVD to get ready. Because of a potential writer's strike, the production began early in April of that year. There were only 19 episodes in the last season. His background was complicated. Cooper was a $2 billion cattle rancher. He received a Bronze Star for his service in Vietnam. Cooper pretended to be dead and appeared at his own memorial as the season came to a close. However, only 5 days after that episode aired, on February 20, 2008, NBC canceled the show. September 2010 saw the debut of Blue Bloods, which ran until December 2024. Despite having a difficult time slot, Fridays at 10 p.m. it managed to generate impressive numbers. It was anticipated that the final program would attract 11.4 million viewers in 7 days, including 6.68 million viewers in real time. Selleck was crucial in maintaining the show's consistency. His persona was the head of a family and a police department. The show stood out because of its blend of daily life and legislation. A family dinner scene was also included in every episode, and it became a significant aspect of the series. The Reagan family was able to resolve their differences in these instances. According to Selleck and Donnie Wahlberg, the cast became closer as a result of the dinners. Despite their apparent simplicity, the moments were challenging to film. Without speaking much, each performer had to convey the emotions of their character. Fans have witnessed significant events at that table throughout the years. Highlights were Henry's 60th work anniversary and Jamie and Eddie's engagement. In May 2024, CBS canceled the show despite its high ratings. Selleck felt irritated. He believed that the network undervalued their possessions. The show is more popular than ever, he stated in an interview. We surely don't lack ideas. The same was true for the cast. According to Bridget Moynihan and Wahlberg, the program was more than just labor, it was familiar. Tom Selleck was a teenage actor attempting to get into Hollywood before his mustache became famous and he became one of the most recognizable faces on television, while simultaneously attempting to start a family. At the age of 26, Tom wed model and actress Jacqueline Ray in 1971. The marriage was followed by a family. He reared Kevin, Jacqueline's adoptive son, as his own. His career was only getting started at the time. In the hopes of making a breakthrough, he started playing modest roles in commercials. They were leading a tranquil life, constructing a life together. Tom was also focused on establishing a solid foundation in a challenging industry. However, things started to change between them by the late 1970s. After over 10 years of marriage, they split up in 1979. However, they didn't immediately file for divorce. Rather, they took the unconventional choice to live apart but maintain communication as they worked out their next course of action. Tom remained close to Kevin despite the strain. Even while the marriage was failing, he never abandoned his responsibilities as a father. The tabloids didn't mince words. The rumors erupted when Magnum PI started filming in 1980. People thought the separation was due to his growing celebrity. Tom, however, made it apparent that was untrue. He said that before he even launched the show, he and Jacqueline had been apart for 6 months in a 1982 interview with People. The media's narrative that said that's the meaty story irritated him. It is untrue to say that a spouse quits their spouse after giving him the finest years of their lives. The divorce was finalized in the same year. It deeply affected him. He acknowledged that he had always intended to be married for life, and referred to it as one of his greatest tragedies. He was wary because of his tragedy. Uncertain if he was prepared for another relationship, he grew more reticent and defensive. Then came 1983. Something unexpected happened when Tom was in London filming the crime drama Lassiter. He began seeing the musical Cats on a regular basis. People initially believed he was simply fixated on the show. 8.5 times he went. Jane Seymour, his co-star, even expressed that she thought it was odd. Although not too much, she also found the musical enjoyable. She was unaware that Tom was not returning for the music. He was present for a single act. A 25-year-old dancer named Gillie Joan Mack performed Rumple Teaser in the program. Her vitality captivated Tom, who referred to her as the essence of joy. Initially, Jillie had no idea who he was. She retorted, "Who the expletive is that?" when someone informed her that Tom Selleck had been ogling her from the audience. He appeared even more intrigued by that type of candor. They had a casual meal on their first date. Jillie's representative claimed that was all that was required. From then, everything proceeded swiftly. After her contract with Katz expired, Jillie had to make a big choice. To be with Tom, she relocated to Hawaii from England. As he shot Magnum PI, he accompanied her to a state dinner at the White House, which was hosted by President Reagan 2 years later, in 1985. It was a significant event. Few people are aware that Tom also danced with Princess Diana, but that night gained notoriety because John Travolta did. On 2 occasions, Jillie even danced with Prince Charles. "I was so happy you rescued me," she subsequently said Charles stated to her. "Nancy's pals were always stomping on my toes." It was the beginning of a highly visible phase of a previously private relationship. August 7, 1987, was the day of their next action. Tom was 42. Jillie was 29 years old. The wedding was held in Nevada, close to Lake Tahoe. In order to avoid media notice, it was meticulously arranged. All the plans were made under false pretenses by Tom's brother Bob Jenkins. Tom, together with Susie Mark, only members of the immediate family, were invited. Jillie concealed her outfit in a little purse. Tom remained out of sight and traveled light. Minutes before the ceremony, even the minister was unaware of their identities. To prevent negatives from being leaked to the media, they only permitted Polaroid pictures. Even the best laid plans may go awry though. There was a loud noise emanating from Jillie's chamber just before the wedding. She spoke loudly and quickly. Later, Tom called it a disturbance. The marriage license was a crucial item that they had overlooked. The wedding nearly fell through. However, the minister provided a remedy. While the rest of the family went to supper, he drove all the way to Reno to resolve the matter, saying he would sign the paperwork nevertheless. In an April 2024 interview, Tom reflected on that day and claimed it was the most memorable element of the wedding. He remarked, "That's what I remember most." "Anyway," said Reverend David, "I'll sign it." It was utterly memorable, a little humorous, and crazy. Hannah Margaret Selleck, Tom and Jillie's daughter, was born on December 16, 1988, just over a year later. Everything changed when she was born. Tom knew something had to go, even if he was still the lead in Magnum PI. He left the performance that same year. At the height of his career, he decided to prioritize his family. "It was time to move on," he added, "if I wanted a family. Even though I have enjoyed my business, it is not the purpose of life. There are more significant things in life." They reared Hannah on a 63-acre ranch in Ventura County, California, a far way from Hollywood. She felt liberated in that area. She was raised among horses rather than photographers. By stating, "My first priority is time with my family," Tom avoided the limelight as well. "Some things I simply don't feel comfortable doing." That attitude paid off. Hannah did not pursue a career in performing as her parents did. She rose to the pinnacle of the horse racing world. She even participated in Olympic competitions, and afterwards started Descanso Farm, her own business dedicated to training and breeding show horses. The ranch evolved into more than a house. It represented everything that Tom held dear. In 1988, the year he left Magnum, he purchased the property. It had ancient oak trees that had been there for more than a century, as well as more than 1,500 avocado plants. Even avocados don't appeal to Tom. However, he maintained the grove as a company. The land has seen several difficulties throughout the years, most notably the severe droughts in California. Tom lost a lot of trees. A few of them were more than 100 years old. "That just breaks your heart," he remarked. However, he saw that they were returning. After a few successful seasons, a lot of healthy growth is emerging from them. The property sparked criticism as well. During the drought in 2015, Tom was charged by local authorities of using water from a public hydrant. Over the course of 2 years, 1.4 million gallons were supplied to his property, according to a private investigator hired by the Caligua's Municipal Water District. Water usage wasn't the only issue. The reason was that it originated from a neighborhood that was not inhabited by Tom. He and Jillie agreed to pay more than $21,000 to resolve the dispute. The ranch is still his haven though. Tom reads the morning paper, checks on the wildflowers, and rides his ATV throughout the property every day. He responded candidly when asked if he would maintain the ranch after retiring. "That is always a problem. Yes, if I quit working, am I destined to live? Yes, perhaps not on a ranch of 63 acres.